Hi, everyone. Perhaps I should stand closer to the microphone. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Kreger, and this talk is Where is Ironic and Where is it Going? So a little background. Ironic is the bare metal as a service project for OpenStack. It was first released nearly 6 years ago, which seems like an age of time that I can't even think of. 5 years ago, it actually became part of OpenStack, and since it actually started, 808 people have contributed from 96 distinct organizations. In just our last release cycle, 103 people from 36 different organizations submitted patches. Now, one of the things I do like to talk about briefly is the adoption of Ironic and where it is in the universe, because you can't really know where you're going until you know where you are. So in OpenStack, multiple projects have integrated and leveraged Ironic for various deployment needs, and not just deployment of installation, but also deployment of instances. These projects are the Nova project, OOO, and Kala. All of these problems solve specific problems and use cases in the Ironic or OpenStack community. But the thing to take away from this is that the user base of Ironic continues to grow. A new project called MetalCube recently started. I guess it was actually about a year ago that started. And the intent is to provide a Kubernetes CRD to drive Ironic. Where this is going is MetalCube and also additional OpenStack projects are beginning to use Ironic. And now we're seeing Airship, which is another OpenStack community or OpenStack Foundation community project, and OpenShift also taking use of Ironic through MetalCubed. Awesome. So a little bit about the velocity of the project so people are aware. What we've seen is both a decline and an increase in the number of commits. And we've also seen some operator commits jump in and also kind of decrease as various problems were solved. But we've also seen a decline in committers. And what this is this tends to be drive-by commits. People seeing a minor problem and going, I need to get this fixed, or someone doing a one-word minor tiny little change across 100 repos. So we can kind of see when we look at the amount of code that's been added and deleted to the project, that it's also kind of staying fairly stable. It's evolving as needed, and really it's not changing too dramatically. Right now we're kind of in a feature additions mode. But the key takeaway is that Ironic is a stable platform, and when we talk about clusters, hundreds of machines that it manages are fairly common. When we start talking about the hyperscalers of the world, people are running 4,000, 10,000 machines in Ironic in a single deployment. I know of one cluster that's at least 150,000 machines, which is kind of mind-boggling when you think of the number of cores that can be in those 150,000 machines. So kind of explain where things are going. This train was our last release. And we added a number of new features, one being software RAID support, another being multicast DNS support so that Ironic services can find each other on a network. You don't necessarily need additional configuration. We also became the authoritative state for power information, which was kind of a big change for the compute universe. We also introduced this concept of deploy steps, which is allowing operators to better articulate exactly how to reach their desired end state. And also, we've seen more use of Redfish. Specifically, Dell has added interfaces to support Redfish hardware through their what we call hardware type. Since then, we started working on Redfish Virtual Media, which is another feature, to allow operators to deploy machines using virtual media and not PXE booting. Redfish is a DMTF standard, which is Distributed Management Task Force that is defining an API surface to control hardware. If you've heard of Swordfish, that's another project that is in their community. And the whole idea is to provide a common vendor-neutral API framework to kind of replace things like IPMI. Many reasons, but we shouldn't go there now. One of the other features we added was the ability to collect sensor data from redfish, specifically so you can provide that to your instrumentation tooling and expose that to your users. We also had a couple more features to collect additional information, retries, little things to make things easier for operators. So they didn't have to define the same data on machine after machine after machine. Now there's the current development cycle. That redfish iDrag virtual media support is now a thing as well. So we now have a framework for multiple vendors supporting virtual media-based booting with redfish. We also now support the automatic allocation of serial port consoles. This wasn't a thing for years. It used to be a manual thing. Who knows why? We also expanded our software rate support, and we may even see additional support to constrain the actual selection of disks before the end of our development cycle. We're also seeing lots of work into multi-tenancy, which is very important for the mass open cloud. And with this is also coming the support to do privilege delegation to users. While not turned on by default, the concept is that certain users will be able to actually have additional privileges. So if I was deployed via a virtual machine, I could potentially go to Ironic directly and say, please turn my machine off. CERN has also graciously added support for a logic called retirement, which allows an operator to say, I don't want to reprovision this machine. I want to shut it down at the end of its life cycle, but it may stay beyond for months for all we know, because people actually put workloads on machines that can't be turned off immediately. We're also working on security enhancements for edge machine deployments. And what I mean by this is more servers on telephone poles or servers in racks that are buried in the ground, where you want to still deploy them, you still want to be able to perform actions on them, but you don't want to roll a truck. And you still want to do these in secure means without actually having to go touch the machine. We're also working on adding in the ability to control indicator lights on the machines, which seems like a minor thing, but when you're walking through a data center and you have 1,000 machines, it's a little helpful to find the machine that's blinking or be able to turn the light off or on or whatever state you need. One of the things we're also working on in the future is removing the need for DHCP. Turns out that people don't really like DHCP in certain environments. Additionally, with the urging of the scientific community, we've been looking at supporting KExec, which will hopefully reduce that boot time from possibly 30 minutes to 30 seconds. And also we're looking at supporting persistent agents, and the idea there being I want to redeploy this machine right now using KExec and reprovision it to another tenant, potentially, or another workload without actually taking that initial tax of doing this power on self-test. If there are questions or if you wish to contribute, we can be found on IRC in the #OpenStack-Ironic channel, on irc@freenode.net, and we tend to like people saying good morning.
Okay, thank you, Julie.